Continue with the study of French philosophers, and now the focus is on Helvetius. Helvetius is the pen name, and it basically means a person from Switzerland. So Holbach is from Germany, Helvetius is from Switzerland. If he's from Switzerland, stands to reason that he's a Protestant, and he's also a banker, and he's also very rich. And just like Holbach, he gives money to Encyclopedie. He writes several articles on his own, and then is a member of this group of scholars in the Salon. Here are some of the ideas that Helvetius wrote in his book, which we will discuss in a minute. Number one, about human nature. Men are products of education and environment. Children, when they're born, have no avarice, no ambition, no glory. So again, these are one of those ideas that will be repeated by Rousseau and elaborated even more, but essentially it's central to many people of Enlightenment, the French philosophers, that nature, environment, where you're from, shapes you, and the education you receive does create your character, not religion, not any supernatural forces. We are products of nature. Children are products of nature and of education. Here's a quote. Inequality of education is the cause of inequality. So again, he's discussing the question that would be central to the French Revolution. Égalité, equality. Where does inequality come from? Inequality comes from unequal education and unequal socialization. Some people are raised to be rulers in privileged elite schools, and others are deprived of education, because, as were the third estate and the peasants and the workers. They were deliberately deprived of education because they would be easier to control. So again, the philosophers think education is key to progress, education is key to changing society. From here comes also something, again, Rousseau would develop further, the theory of natural equality of men. And he proceeds to say of all races. This is very important. It's a profound belief, something that would Rousseau and Thomas Jefferson put it in this way. All men are created equal. And Rousseau would add, but they are in chains. So it was actually Helvetius who wrote first that there is natural equality of all people, of all races. That they are all born equal, but then the way they're socialized, the way they're deprived of opportunities, the way they live in either luxury or in some slums determines the rest of their development and their social status and their inequality. The purpose of the new society is égalité, equality, meaning that everybody should have a chance to be educated and to pursue happiness and to get property. So this is the logical connection that would completely agree with Holbach and with Rousseau. The way to educate people, of course, should be a totally different education, and that's where Rousseau would elaborate on the system of schools that should be. But it's already Helvetius who writes that instead of Greek and Latin, there should be more sciences and more study of technology and practical professions in the schools. He's just like Holbach and Diderot and many others, is totally, and Voltaire especially, is against the church and against the Catholic control of education. So he writes, the church retards the development of the country. They sow superstition and falsehood. And here's a direct quote. In every religion, the first objective is to stifle the curiosity of men, to prevent emancipation of their dogma. So one more time, this is a rebellion against the church, not only against the church, not only against Catholicism, but against any religion that suffocates human capacity to think independently without the dogmas that are being propelled onto children with the religion. He says, look at the history of religion. History of religion is the history of intolerance, and history of corpses, mountains of corpses. In other words, people kill for religion and have been killing, especially in Christian religion, all throughout history. He has a positive way to say about Islam's toleration. He says, look, if we look at the religions of the world, there are Christian churches in Constantinople, but there are no mosques in Paris. So it's very remarkable that at this early time, when there were no mosques in Europe, only Frederick the Great said that the Muslims could build one if they wanted to. He is saying that the Muslims are more tolerant of other religions than the so-called Christian, so-called Catholic Church. So a call for toleration. Here's another fantastic quote. There is only one cause when toleration is detrimental to a people: when it tolerates religion that is intolerant of others, such as the Catholic one. So the only thing we should not tolerate is intolerance itself, says Helvetius. If there is a state religion that is openly, profoundly intolerant of others, kills people for being Huguenots, for being different Christians, let alone being Jews or Muslims, that religion should be abolished. Now he goes on to the task of philosophy. The task of philosophy and of philosophers like himself is, quote, to promote morality independent of religion. So the claim that religion, that Christianity teaches good and teaches bad, he says is nonsense. It's a false claim. There can be and there is morality independent of religion, because it comes from nature, and we know from nature what is good and what is bad. And we don't need religion to do good, and we don't need religion to do bad. Men are neither good nor bad, he says. They are born to survive in nature, where one eats another. In other words, in the struggle of survival, there is no good and bad, but there is good and bad in human motivation to be kind to others. Human nature, he basically says something that Frederick the Great would completely agree with. When men are free from constraints, they lose control and they kill. Frederick the Great would put it in a more dramatic way, speaking about beastly nature of humans. What's the solution? Not Christian religion, not Christian brotherhood, because Christian brotherhood leads only to corpses and executions and burning on the stakes of all the people who disagree with it. Law. The answer is law. There should be a law-based government, society, that punishes the guilty and prevents, with these constraints, it sort of prevents human nature from going overboard and committing a crime. He's also, one of the greatest quotes is that life is, this is Helvetius, listen to this, life is pursuit of happiness. So you have this presence of the idea that it's not just justice, it's not just tolerance, it's not only liberty, it is also fraternity, it is also brotherhood of free men in a free country that should be able to pursue happiness. It does seem to me that Thomas Jefferson picked it up reading the French philosophers. Here's a great quote. Virtue is not obedience to God. It is behavior that gives the greatest pleasure to the greatest number. One more idea that would be used by the American revolutionaries. The greatest good for the greatest number. That is the purpose of government, is to provide law, security, and pursuit of happiness under the law. The purpose of all laws should be one and only one: the well-being of people, the well-being of men, as he put it. Reiterating this is like a platform, this is like a manifesto of not only what society is, not only what's wrong with it now, but what it should be. This is a roadmap to the French Revolution. Now, political order. Helvetius discusses what exactly should the political order be. Uh, he says constitutional monarchy is fine, it could be okay. Philosopher kings that would be so dear to Voltaire is something he could go along with. He would say, yes, that can work. But there's a danger that it could be unjust, it could easily revert to tyranny because monarchs are kind of people who are unpredictable. Democracy, yes, he says it could be a good system, but it cannot work when you have uneducated people. In order to have a functioning democracy, you should have first education and virtue that becomes a part of human nature to a point that they would not need controls imposed over them, but they would live fraternity as brothers who obey the laws because it is in their own morality. So the best thing that it is, listen to this. This was written in 1760s. The best system is Federation of Democratic Republics, pledged to unite action against aggression. Federation of Democratic Republics, it does in a most optimistic way sound like a European Union. A federation of democratic republics that pursue happiness and justice for their citizens and obviously against aggression. This is something that was said 200 years ago or more. Social issue. Concentration of wealth leads to corruption and decay. This is something that he repeats after Ibn Khaldun, who was the first one to say that. But again, this is so remarkable. He's a banker, he's rich, and yet he's saying concentration of wealth is bad. Because when people are rich, they take it for granted, they usurp the government and run it for their own benefit rather than for the benefit of the people. So this is one of these things. Then, as a result of this, what is the goal? The goal is to spread wealth, to spread education, enlightenment, to make people happy. From my point of view, when I read it, this predicts European socialism. This predicts Karl Marx. It predicts Labour Party. It predicts the Social Democratic Party of Germany at the end of the 19th century because they were the ones who would put it exactly in the same terms. To spread the wealth, to spread education, enlightenment for the benefit of the people. That is what Helvetius says in the middle of the 18th century. Finally, the most comprehensive revolutionary program is to strive for liberty, fraternity, and equality. He says those things. I mean, these are the ones that we know associate now with the French Revolution, but they are the ones found in Helvetius' text and, of course, also in Holbach. So, in other words, I think these are revolutionary breakthroughs. These people have sort of observed what is going on, have provided critique for the France that they lived in, and in these books formulated a program that would actually become a banner, a kind of rallying point of the educated classes in France, and would be the de facto program of the French Revolution. So that's Helvetius and Holbach, and don't forget to put your likes and to subscribe to AP European History with Dr. Brovkin, and that'll be it for today. Thank you.